We are in dangerous times, my friends. Dangerous times. The United States that I see around me is not the United States that I knew as a child. I grew up in the small town of Sandpoint, Idaho, and my parents were Lutherans. My dad was a golf pro and my mother was the church organist. I can still remember that just about everyone I knew, my classmates and others, went to church. There were very few that didn't go to church on a Sunday. And now we have reached an age where in the United States, fewer and fewer people are going to church. And the ones that are going to churches that have so turned their back on ancient Christianity that it's pathetic. I saw a video recently of a Roman Catholic priest in his Eucharistic vestments with his arms in the air, dancing to the beat of guitars and banjos and drums at Mass. I saw another image of a Roman Catholic priest dressed in a clown outfit saying Mass. I even saw a case of a priest that was in a lake with a floating altar saying Mass with his shirt off. If people think that that is how we bring the Eucharist into our lives, they're mistaken. And if they think that those are the very ways we can attract our young people into the church, they're mistaken. One of the reasons why Orthodoxy has gotten the reputation of being a place that is attracting so many young men is not surprising to me. The young men that visit our monastery on a regular basis or come as with their friends for a weekend retreat or come for a Sunday liturgy, many of them seekers, does not surprise me because there's nothing in our world for them. Many young men don't even bother going to college anymore, and only 40% of young men, in fact, are going to college because they don't feel welcome in the universities and colleges, especially if they're white and they're seen as white privileged and therefore racist. And yet with all this, I see a new form of racism raising its ugly face. The racism against white people, as we, in the meantime, are going down in numbers because of our birth rate falling. This country is destined to ultimately be a country of probably Latinos and Mexicans and so on, because those who are coming over our borders are not white people, but the ones that are coming are bringing large families. The same way can be said of Muslims that are coming to this country or who have been here for years. They have children, whereas so many people that have called themselves Christians are living a sort of dumbed down version of Christianity, pitiful as that may sound. When you have mega churches putting on a stage show with a band and guitars and drums and singers and a minister who's prancing around on the stage like some theatrical person, maybe that attracts a few people for a short time, but ultimately it does not feed the soul. When you see Catholic priests dumbing down the Mass in a terrible attempt to bring people back into the church, it's not working. And what does work is the tradition of the Orthodox Church that young men are attracted to in increased numbers. I've mentioned this before when I was at Orthodox Montanicon in Butte, Montana. Of the 150 registered for this event, 95% were young men. They were there because they were hungering for truth. They wanted something that would sustain them. But there's still the issue of our own selves, and what are we doing to sustain ourselves until the day of judgment? If our orthodoxy is nothing more than a Sunday liturgy, whereas the rest of the time we're busy with our lives, raising our children, going to movies, hanging out with friends in a bar, that's not orthodoxy. Orthodoxy should be embraced and lived as though our lives depend on it, because they do. Our eternal life depends on it. The Lord has given this time to all of us on this earth as a time of preparation for the eternal kingdom. If we don't use this time wisely, we will find ourselves in terrible shape as we stand before God's judgment throne at the last day. And certainly those around us won't see anything inspiring in orthodoxy that would want to make them come here. One thing that has really touched my heart is when I see young men who are either catechumens or who have already embraced orthodoxy as their own come to the monastery with friends. In the past, people seemed embarrassed about that. Oh, I don't want my friends to know I'm religious. They'll think I'm weird. Or they'll think I'm pushy if I invite them to join me. And yet, 9 times out of 10, the friends are people who are starving for something spiritual and they don't know where to find it. And if their friends who are Orthodox are not demonstrating the truth of our faith to their friends, they'll never find it. So let's make a renewed commitment, all of us, to living our Orthodox faith, to living it wholly and deeply in our heart, that the light of Christ will shine through us, and that those around us will see that we have something they don't have, and be drawn to it. May God bless you. And I say, has been said many times before by others, come home. Come home to orthodoxy.